Pregame.com.
Welcome back to pregame.tv. It's Saturday baseball action. We've got the Oakland A's at the Toronto Blue Jays. This is going to be Ken's free pick. Ken, I got to ask you, the Oakland A's, we're talking, it wasn't less than 2 weeks ago. This team had a 6-game lead on Texas. Texas just got swept by the Indians, and they got the fork out, and everybody was ready to, stick it in the Rangers. What's happened here now?
Well, Texas, first off, they knew they had a bunch of guys on the DL, had a chance of bringing some of those guys in. Then they go out and grab Matt Garza, which I thought was a brilliant move. They needed that because some of those guys that they're hoping will come back probably won't come back, and if they do, they may not be effective. So they needed that guy to kind of solidify the starting staff, and I think the rest of the team kind of realize, you know what, we've got a good enough staff, and Holland's coming off a great performance as well, and when he's hot, that even bolsters the staff that much more. But they're looking up and down and saying, all we have to do really is get out there, get 4 runs. We got a great chance to win a lot of ball games. Now they're starting to get hits. The young kids stepping up, Profar stepping up. Kinsler's been consistent. Beltre's been solid all year. I'll tell you what, there's enough, Mitch Moreland, there's enough dangerous bats in this lineup that you can't sleep on the Texas Rangers, and they have experience. They've been around. Some of these guys have been there. Washington's been there, and I think he's done a remarkable job as far as managing this year.
Now you've got the Oakland A's. How do they react with seeing a 6-game lead just go up in smoke the way it has?
This team is weird. This is a Jekyll and Hyde team, and again, by next week's video, we're going to go. And the A's have won 6 in a row. We don't understand how they did it. But it is. They really are that type of team. Just when you think you can say, hey, pencil them in, they're in there, or pen them in, then you have to get out and say, good thing I only put them in pencil because I may have to erase them. And with the way that Cleveland all of a sudden came out and started playing, and then Baltimore now is playing well, we know Tampa more than likely is going to grab one of those wild cards. But again, that's not even a given because now they're struggling. They're on the West Coast for 3 more in L.A. You just don't know. Month to month, by the middle of September, we'll have a good gauge. But the wild card could go back and forth several times in the American League and also divisional winners. Looks like Detroit's pretty safe in the AL Central.
You can pencil that.
I would think. And then Boston and Tampa looks like a 2-team race in the East, but don't count out Baltimore yet. Again, 3 teams. Yankees have plummeted back big time. We know they're more than likely not going to make it, and which is kind of good. A-Rod bringing that karma there, I could care less. And then Toronto's a team that a lot was expected of them because on paper they look good. Reyes went down early, but this team has struggled and hasn't gotten any consistency out of that pitching staff.
Well, we've seen this so many times when teams go out and try to buy a pennant. It just all the pieces don't mix all the time. And now Mark Burley, for the most part, he's probably been the most consistent. He had 3 straight games where he went 7 innings or more, giving up 3 runs or less. But he did get roughed up in his last outing. He went 6 innings, gave up, 5 runs to the Angels. What are you looking at in this one? It is your free play. Let's make it official for you.
Let's do it. Marco's definitely right. I mean, Mark Burley's been solid. He did get roughed up in his last outing. But that's okay. I'm going to throw that out. I mean, a guy's not going to pitch perfect ball all the time. But Toronto's going home. They were on the West Coast swing. In fact, their last game, the wild game against Seattle, they had a 7-2 lead, ended up losing that game 9-7. But the bats are clicking. And I watched them when they played in Anaheim. I watched a couple of those games. They haven't quit. They haven't mailed it in. They're not going to make the postseason. They know that. But they're trying to get some chemistry moving forward for next year. They know if Reyes stays healthy for next year, it's a pretty darn good lineup. And Encarnacion, this guy is nails. Bautista, he's a solid hitter. He's not just a home run hitter. He hits the ball hard. And there's 2 guys right there that I mentioned that when they make outs, a lot of those outs are hit right at people. I mean, just put blistering line drives to the outfield or in the infield. So, again, this Toronto team, when they get home, we know the ball carries there at the Rogers Center. We know there's a lot of runs being scored. Let's look at A.J. Griffin for the Oakland A's. Here's a guy, got a win against Toronto, 9-4 in Oakland. 9-4, but he gave up 3 home runs in that game. In fact, he's given up 5 home runs in his last 10 innings, 10 home runs in his last 25 innings. You can't do that and expect to go to Toronto and get away with that because those last 2 games, they were in Oakland. That's a pitcher's park. So Griffin's leaving the ball out there for people to take him deep. I have a feeling Toronto's going to get off and really take Griffin and beat him around. I don't expect him to last past the 5th inning. Burley, consistency, it's been there. If you throw out that last game, the prior 2 games before that, shutout baseball, didn't give up a run. So that's the guy I'm looking for to go out there. He's got a .500 record, but again, he's pitched average better than that. Hasn't got a lot of run support in some of those games. Again, I like Bonifacio in the lineup, even though he's only hitting about 213. Guy's got speed. He's one of those guys that can get on base. So you've got him at the 9 hole, and then you've got Reyes at the 1 hole. Encarnacion Bautista, Linda's back in there. Colby Rasmus, 17 home runs. Aaron Sibia, again, a guy that does not hit for average, but has 17 home runs himself. And Laurie back in there. He's hitting pretty good as well as Lynn. So, again, a good lineup there for Toronto. I expect them to score. When I look at Oakland, Donaldson and Lowry have stayed positive. Those two guys, very consistent all year. Coco Crisp down to 247. Brandon Moss, 244. Still has some good power numbers. And then Cespedes. Yeah, we saw you win the home run contest. What's going on? Second half, we looked at Chris Davis for Baltimore get out slowly in the second half. Cespedes has been ridiculously slow, and that hurts. If he doesn't get that bat going power-wise, Oakland's in a lot of trouble. They may not make the postseason, so they need to get it together. They need him to produce. He's only hitting 226. He needs to get that average up to 245 before the end of the year. Get those power numbers going. Hey, you can't just hit all the home runs in batting practice. Have to do them in the big games. But I like Toronto in this game. I think you'll get a good price on Burley just because Oakland is still a first-place team going into Friday night. We're actually taping on Thursday now. So Thursday night, they're tied with the Texas Rangers. But again, they'll probably be a slight favorite with Griffin on the mound. I'll take my shot with Burley. He's been pretty consistent, as Marco said, and I'm going to go with my play on pregame.tv as the Toronto Blue Jays with Mark Burley over the Oakland A's and A.J. Griffin.
I'll throw one more stat out there that you'll like, and one of your favorite phrases, too. Mark Burley, he's a home and away dichotomy pitcher because he's got an ERA of 5.90 on the road, but when he pitches at home, 2.95. That's a huge difference there. So that supports your Toronto Blue Jays. You have it. There it is. Ken says take Toronto on Saturday. That wraps up the baseball for this week, but we've got one more video for you. We're going to be right back here, pregame.tv. We're going to take a look at Sunday football action. I just love saying Sunday football action.
My boys are in action.
Good. We'll be talking Buffalo, Indianapolis, up next, pregame.tv.